Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jesús Perales, for those that do not know me. I'm going to present, as Manuel already said, the work I've done on my PhD thesis, which is entitled Fluid Kinetics Model for Space Plasma Thrusters, under the supervision of Professor Domínguez Vázquez and Professor Aedo. This is the contents, the outline for the presentation of my PhD defense, which is in 1 week. But I will not go through all the points because I will not have time. I will just present the introduction section. I will present then the goals and main contributions, and then I will jump straight to the last points, which are, some results regarding the hybrid simulations of a Hall effect thruster. We'll see what hybrid means later. And then the last results concerning this point, and then I will show some full peak simulations of another kind of Hall effect thruster, okay? And then I will present the conclusions and the future work, research lines. So, introduction. I want to motivate why we want to study, why we want to develop basically this type of thrusters, plasma thrusters or electric thrusters. We also know them with this name. Well, basically because we can achieve high impulses with these devices, because we are able to accelerate ions, charged particles with very large velocities, much larger than with chemical or conventional propulsion. And this way, according to the rocket equation, we are able to reduce significantly the propellant consumption. So that is the main purpose why we, or the main advantage of using electric propulsion. In principle, it's not energy limited because the energy that we have for the propulsion is not contained within the chemical bonds of the propellant itself, but on the power, electric power that we are able to collect from the surroundings or the batteries. And the main disadvantage of electric propulsion is the low thrust that is able to produce because the thrust is proportional to the square root of the onboard power available. Okay. Electric propulsion, plasma propulsion is not only the future but also the present of space propulsion. Well, there are several types of thrusters in the field of electric propulsion, but the two main ones, the most important ones currently, the ones that have shown reliable and efficient operation, are Hall effect thruster, the head, this one here, and the gridded ion thruster, okay, which is the GIT. These are the two ones the ones I have studied during my PhD thesis, because although they are already efficient and reliable thrusters, there are still parts of the physics of these thrusters that are not well understood, because plasma physics, what happens inside these chambers is very complicated. Those are very complex physical problems. And also the design of new models, of new prototypes of Hall effect thrusters and gradient ion thruster still highly depends on the previous flight data, previous flight experience, and also on very costly experimental campaigns. So numerical simulations are needed to solve these two problems, okay? The ones I have just mentioned. So we need to further develop, because it already exists codes, but we have to further develop these codes to aim at predictability, okay? Of the performance, of the physics, of erosion, and there are several problems I am listing here, but there are more than these ones. And this is why we need to improve simulation models and run faithful simulations of these thrusters. Here is where this is the starting point of my thesis, and this is what motivates the realization of my thesis. So on the one hand, the two global, overall goals. The first one is basically improving existing numerical simulation tools within the EP2 group, which has already some heritage, and also in other groups during my research stay, to be able to more faithfully model space plasma thrusters, in particular Hall effect thrusters. And then, with these improved numerical simulation tools, with these improved models, I have tried, and I will show you this, at least a part of it, to simulate new real prototypes, and obtain really relevant conclusions about the physics of these thrusters, and analyze what are the main, drivers for the performance of these thrusters. So, these goals also kind of summarize or kind of give us a hint about the methodology I followed. So I worked on already existing codes, the ones that are in bold, EP2+, Hyphen, and PlasmaSim, which are codes from EP2 and also from the IPPL, which is the Imperial College Plasma Propulsion Laboratory. And I've tried to develop these codes to make, say, simulations of real thruster more faithful. I will show you what this means in particular for these kind of thrusters. And then I've run simulations of these thrusters, and I have obtained conclusions, and I have studied their performance from the numerical point of view. Well, as a result of these works, well, I'm summarizing here very briefly what I've done. As I said, I've worked on all these three codes, CP2+, Hyphen, and Plasma Sim here. I have improved these codes in different ways, and I have obtained, well, I have run simulations on real thrusters, on gridded ion thrusters, on Hall effect thrusters, and I have, as a result of that, I have published 3 articles on these investigations, on this research. And well, there is also a paper which is submitted for publication, is currently under peer review process. Well, I haven't listed here the conference papers, but I have also participated in conference proceedings. So now I'm jumping straight to the simulations. Well, the last results I've got during basically this last year of research. Which basically consist on the simulation of, well, a certain kind of Hall effect thruster, which is this one, the HT20K. I will show you later a picture of the thruster. And I will present the results of these simulations, okay? Well, first of all, just I mean, in order to present, to give you some basis to understand the results I'm going to present, I want to show you the Hyphen model, which I have already presented in previous talks, and then I will go to the results, okay? So Hyphen is a hybrid simulation code for plasmas. What does it mean to be hybrid? Well, in the plasma we have ions and neutrals, which are heavy particles because of their weight, and we have electrons, which are very light. So this leads to this opens a possibility for 2 different types of modeling of ions and electrons. Basically, in hybrid codes, we model ions as macroparticles, and we move these particles following Newton's law. And electrons, we model them as a fluid, okay? That is why we call these codes hybrids, okay? Then there are full bit codes, which are codes in which both electrons and ions are particles, okay? Are modeled as particles. You can see here the simulation domain. This is a 2D code, which makes use of the cylindrical geometry of the Hall effect thruster, okay? You can see it here. And well, basically, it has these modules: the ion module to move the macroparticles, the ions and neutrals, and we have the electron module to solve the fluid equations. Okay, ions are moved within this structure peak mesh, and electrons are the electron fluid is solved. The current continuity, the momentum, the electron energy, and the heat flux equation these electron fluid equations are solved in this unstructured mesh, which is aligned with the magnetic field to reduce numerical diffusion. Okay. And well, the code is quasi-neutral, which means that ion density equals to electron density. And well, we have some closures for the heat flux, which are needed for the fluid equations. Okay, I'm not entering into the details, but if you want to ask, you can ask later. Now, what kind of thrusters are we simulating? We are simulating real thruster, new prototypes that are under development currently. Okay. During my PhD thesis, I've simulated these two thrusters in the framework of these 2 European projects, EDA and Aspire. And well, this is the HT5K, which is a medium power, 5 kilowatts power thruster, and this is the HT20K, which is a high power thruster, which is 20 kilowatts thruster in operation. And basically, well, the results I'm showing today are related to this Hall effect thruster, which is the HT20K, which is the last one I've simulated. Okay. These thrusters feature a special magnetic topology that is called magnetic shielding, which is quite recent. And also a centrally mounted cathode. You can see here the cathode from where the electrons are injected, okay? And it's centrally mounted. Typically, the old thrusters they had the cathode here in the external part of the ring. This is the simulation setup. Well, I'm not going to explain all the details, but basically, well, if I'm looking at this mesh, the structure mesh for the ions, neutrals are injected from this boundary, okay? And here inside the chamber, they are ionized by the electrons, which are very energetic. Electrons are injected from this black box here, which is the cathode, and they come all the way into the chamber, and they ionize here the neutrals, and their ions, which are created by ionization of the neutrals, are expelled in this direction, by means of the electric fields, and by this way you can achieve the thrust, okay, and the impulse you want. We simulate both double ions, single ions. We have simulated also charge exchange collisions, which is a kind of collisions that are important. We simulate excitation collision, ionization collisions. Well, the model is really complete, okay? And the most important point here I want to highlight is that we are able to simulate several kind of propellants, and this is a hot topic today because industry is shifting from using xenon, which is the ideal propellant for plasma thrusters. We are shifting to krypton. Why? Because krypton is much cheaper, okay? And it's not as ideal as xenon, but it's much cheaper, basically 10 times lower in cost normally. So yeah, we are shifting towards krypton. And also it's more abundant, by the way. So now I will show you some results. I don't know how I'm doing in terms of time. Okay, minutes. Okay, these are some results. As I mentioned, the last activity I've carried out is the comparison of the discharge or the performance of this HT20K thruster with xenon as propellant and krypton as propellant. Okay, and here what I'm showing you here is the comparison we made recently. And we have tried to analyze what is the difference in terms of the efficiency of the thruster, okay, when we use krypton or xenon, okay? So this is the total efficiency, this eta here. And then we have split this eta into several partial efficiencies to try to analyze why krypton performs worse than xenon, okay? And the first thing we've noticed is that krypton indeed underperforms xenon. This eta is lower for xenon than for krypton, so the total efficiency is worse. Sorry, it's lower for krypton than for xenon, but the performance gap is smaller than typically that what you typically see in this kind of thrusters. Okay, so we have tried to analyze why this happens. So in first place, we have analyzed this utilization efficiency, which basically tell us how well we ionize the neutrals. Okay, and we see that indeed, as expected, xenon is better than krypton. Why? Because the ionization potential of xenon is smaller than the one of krypton, okay? So this is something expected, but still, the propellant utilization of krypton is not that bad, okay? You see here the kind of, this is the plasma density, and you see here when the color gets to dark red means that we have a lot of ions, because there is ionization, and then these ions are expelled in this direction, okay? And this is the kind of oscillations you observe in a Hall effect thruster, okay? And the ions that are expelled are the ones that produce the desired thrust, okay? Now, a second partial efficiency is the current utilization. This is a strange one, but basically tells us how much of the discharge current, the produced current, goes to current at infinity, which is the current that basically provides the thrust, okay? And we've seen that, interestingly, that krypton, in this case, performs better than xenon, okay? And this is one of the reasons why the performance gap is reduced. Well, this highly depends on the electron mobility. It is not easy to give a single reason why this happens. We can discuss it later if you want. But this interesting result, which is not observed in other thrusters, has been confirmed by experimental measurements of this same thruster, okay? Then the voltage efficiency, which is an efficiency that measures how well we utilize the accelerating potential, so how well we accelerate the ions. We've seen that krypton performs worse than xenon. And why? Well, the reason is that here you see this is the ionization term, and this is the acceleration term, and we see that basically the ionization term or the ionization region, which is marked by this solid line. You can see that with krypton, which is the red line, intersects with the acceleration region more than what the black line does, and this is worse for the acceleration for the utilization of the acceleration voltage. Okay. Then also we observed that the divergence of krypton is worse than with xenon, and why? Because we observed that the potential fall, this potential fall that you are seeing here is extended. It's making broader with krypton, and this is worse for the divergence of the plume. Also, krypton is more volatile than xenon, and this is also worse for divergence. Okay. And finally, the dispersion efficiency, which is something similar to what our colleagues have mentioned before about polydispersity. This is a huge problem in these micropropulsive devices. We've observed also that with krypton, we've seen that the dispersion efficiency is the same with krypton as with xenon. How is this possible? Because what you are seeing here is that the dispersion, this is the dispersion of velocities of krypton macroparticles, and this is the one for xenon, the black one. You can see that in the plume, this dispersion is higher for krypton, no? But this is per ion species basis. Because if you go to the double ions, you observe that there are more double ions of xenon than of krypton, and this increases the dispersion. So one thing compensates the other, okay? And in the end, you get a similar dispersion efficiency with xenon and with krypton. And finally, we have tried to check that, we have tried to analyze if magnetic shielding is still effective with krypton when we move from xenon to krypton. Magnetic shielding is a technique. We design a magnetic field to protect the walls from erosion by keeping low temperature. This is the temperature. This is the electron temperature here. By keeping low electron temperature on the walls of the thruster, okay? And what we've seen is that the electron temperature is a bit higher with krypton, which means that there is a degrading in the magnetic shielding, but it's still effective, okay? The erosion is practically negligible. And well, lastly, I'm showing quickly some last results also on the modeling of another Hall effect thruster, which is a Hall effect thruster. I will show you that is designed to work with water as propellant, okay, as an alternative propellant to xenon. For that, I've used a code that is called Plasma Sim from Imperial College. And basically, it's a pseudo 2D code. Well, it's full peak in the sense that both electrons and ions are modeled as macroparticles. Okay, now electrons are not anymore a fluid, and it uses a pseudo 2D formulation, which means that we are able to split. In this case, it means that we are able to split the electric potential into two potentials, one that is axial and one that is radial. And this way, we can reduce significantly the computational cost. We can discuss the details if you want later. This is the thruster that we are simulating. It's a much smaller thruster than the ones we've seen before. It's been developed at Imperial College, and it's a thruster that is designed to work with water vapor or water electrolysis products. Okay, so this is well, this is not something typical. Actually, I don't think it's been done before. And well, there were some simulations run at Imperial College, and we compare our simulations. Well, we are actually in the process of doing that against these experimental results. This is the simulation setup for the simulations with Plasma Sim. I improved the model of Plasma Sim during my research stay. Actually, I improved it so that the code can be able to model the water propellant, which basically means including a lot of reactions and a lot of different populations of ions, because in a peak code you need to split the different populations according to the different ion species. So, for instance, in O2, you need to account for O2 species, O species, monatomic ions, O2, O plus, O2 plus, O plus plus. So you have different species, you need to track all of them, okay? And you need to model also the different reactions, okay? Which actually is one of the main disadvantages of using this kind of propellants. If you use this kind of propellants, you have dissociation reactions, you have plenty of excitation reactions, something that you don't have typically with xenon or krypton, okay? Which are noble gases. Well, here I'm just showing a short video of a simulation that we were running with this code. You can see here the electrons. These are the electron particles. The color indicates the density of the electrons. And you can see actually here, you can see particles moving around in the classical drift of electrons around the annular chamber, okay? Well, the code performs faster than a usual full peak code because of this approximation, this quasi-2D approximation. And well, we are able to self-consistently solve for the evolution of neutral species, which is something that is not normally done in this full peak code because of the computational cost. And well, here you can see here some profiles along the midline of the thruster, along this midline, so moving in this direction. And well, you can see these profiles, which are typical profiles. This is just some initial simulation we made, and we see that well, the results are consistent with what is the literature says and what one would expect from these results. Okay, so we are happy, but we still have some work to do on this. So, having exposed all these and things that I haven't presented because of the time availability, well, I want to kind of list some conclusions, very general ones, but basically this is very highly related with the goals I presented before. So basically, during my PhD thesis, I have worked on improving existing numerical simulation tools to make it able to simulate more faithfully new prototypes of real thrusters. And I've worked on 3 codes that, well, they share some algorithms, so it's not like they are completely different codes. But I've worked on the 3 of them, especially on Hyphen, and I have improved them to make simulations more faithful to reality. Okay, and with these improved codes, I've run simulations, like the one I've just presented to you. I've run simulations on real thrusters to get to analyze the physics in depth, and to also analyze which is the rooms for performance improvement. What are the main performance drivers, as I've shown you in the simulations of the H2.k. Okay. And well, some future research lines I would like to propose. Well, I'm focusing here in the ones related to Hyphen and plasma sync, which are the ones I have devoted my exposition to date to. Basically, related to Hyphen, I would improve in the future the model for the electrons, implementing with the possibility of implementing a Poisson solver that would allow us to solve non-neutral regions. Right now, this code is only quasi-neutral. Okay, so by implementing this, we could solve non-neutral regions. Also, would like to simulate Hall thrusters with lateral metallic walls. Right now, we are solving we are only modeling thrusters with dielectric walls, lateral dielectric walls. And also, we'd like to improve the model of the anomalous transport functions, which is something I haven't presented here, but it was discussed in previous years. Okay. And finally, regarding the plasma sync, we'd like to extend the quasi-2D model to a quasi-3D model, including the azimuthal direction. Okay, which so far hadn't been included. And well, I would like to thank all the projects that have supported this research. Thank you. Do you have any question?